Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 is written and directed by James Gunn and stars Chris Pratt, Zoe Saldana, Dave Bautista, Vin Diesel, Bradley Cooper, Michael Rooker, Karen Gillan, Pom Klementieff, and Kurt Russell. This is the sequel to Guardians of the Galaxy, which came out in 2014 and was pretty much a sleeper hit. It kind of made an impact when it first came out, but then people started raving on about it, saying, wow, this was just so fun and refreshing and so different from the rest of the other Marvel movies and other superhero movies as well. People just really got on board with it, and now it's become a big cultural thing. You see a lot of people cosplaying as Guardians of the Galaxy characters in so many different conventions. Sure, I like the first one, but even when I first saw it 3 years ago, I wasn't totally on board with it. I found that there was a lot of flaws with it. I found that the humor wasn't as consistent as I wanted it to be, as everyone else was laughing at all these jokes, and I was sitting there like, Some of the characters I didn't think were necessary to the story. I do like it. It is a fun movie. I'll give it that. But it's just those flaws are very evident to me, and they've just become more and more of a hampering sort of thing as the years have gone on. So going into the sequel, I personally hope that it would be better. There was a lot of room to improve in the first movie, and I hoped that the sequel could bring me a better villain, stronger characters, more consistent humor, and I gotta say, it did that. I honestly, and like I said, this is completely personally, I know this opinion is not shared by a lot of people. I found this sequel to be better than the first one. Everyone keeps saying that Guardians of the Galaxy was this fun, fresh, original, new way of doing Marvel movies, but it kind of wasn't. It had a big problem with it had to introduce this Infinity Stone. The entire plot was based around that. And I just thought that that was really unnecessary. You could have just told a story with these characters and not have this MacGuffin. And I'm glad that there's no Infinity Stone at all in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. There's no other reference or some big cliffhanger or something there that's going to be, you're going to see that in a future movie. Yeah, okay, fine, there's a few little things in the post-credit scenes, but that's after the actual movie itself. This sequel, for the most part, is that standalone adventure that everyone said that the first Guardians was all about. And I saw that, and I love that. You can see with Volume 2 that James Gunn really wanted to crack down and explore what each character means and what purpose they have in this team. And I appreciated that so much. I loved seeing every character have these small little emotional moments that really hit you like tiny little hammers on your heart. And then there's a big moment at the end, this big emotional scene which just, wow, just completely struck me, and I don't think I'll be the same. Watching this movie again, I think I'll feel the same sort of emotion because these characters just felt better. Everything just felt like a much more wholesome and much more worthwhile experience because most of this movie is just about character. Sure, there are action sequences peppered throughout, but there really isn't that many huge, big set pieces except for the beginning and the very end. That's it. The rest of it, the majority of the second act, is just set on this one planet. Sure, you have Rocket and Groot, and they're having their own little adventure because they get split apart, and they have to encounter Yondu, and all. They have that sort of thing. That's pretty cool. But it's all just set on certain locations. It doesn't just keep going from planet to planet to planet to planet, and you're having a hard time trying to keep up with all the stuff that's going around. It just felt like a slower sort of thing, and I liked that. I liked seeing these characters just kind of sit down and talk with each other. Sure, it kind of made the movie a little bit too slow in some scenes. It felt like with every scene that happened, it felt like that was its own sort of story, and then another story would happen. Did all those really nice scenes between these characters completely work in the entire movie? Not really. I'd also have to say that some of the effects work, some of the CGI just didn't look totally complete, especially in that climax. And the climax itself is just absolutely insane. And I really cannot believe that the things that happen in there actually happened. I mean, kudos to James Gunn for going for it, for just having a true, crazy, just balls out vision for this movie and going for it. That's ambition. I like that. Did it totally work? Not exactly. Some of the things that happened in that climax, I thought, yeah, that's pretty cool. And other things I thought, no, that's really dumb. So it was kind of half and half. But for most part of that movie, that kind of feeling of like, what the hell is going on, did make this movie feel so much more fun. I loved seeing Rocket just having more jokes other than just calling Groot an idiot. He had a little bit more wit about him. Drax just absolutely stole the movie in every single scene he was in. Dave Bautista just has such great comedic timing. It's just an absolute joy to watch. Chris Pratt and Kurt Russell, I think, personally have the best scenes together. Sure, they do have a lot of fun, but in terms of emotion and in terms of what their characters are and how they interact with each other, that is fantastic, because Kurt Russell is playing Chris Pratt's character Star-Lord's father, and ooh, yeah, that gets pretty heavy in some scenes. But probably not in the way you're expecting. There was even nice interactions for Gamora and her sister Nebula, which, I mean, in the first movie, I always thought that was just a very boring way to go. I didn't find Nebula interesting. I thought she was just a very lame villain, and even the fights between Gamora and Nebula weren't that exciting. And I thought that was a big problem with the first movie. But here in the sequel, like I said, James Gunn really cracked down on these characters and wanted to make each one of them work in this team. He wanted to make these characters work well together. You don't have to feel like, oh, that person could have just been cut out. No, you can feel like they deserve to be there. And I felt that with Nebula. Her and Gamora just had some really dark stuff in there, and I love that. Baby Groot as well. There's no way in hell Baby Groot wouldn't have worked. He's more adorable than a newborn puppy and the baby from Shaun the Sheep. Just both of those do not hold a candle to how unbelievably cute Baby Groot is. There was also some really quite surprising stuff from Yondu, played by Michael Rooker. His character was much more developed. I understood where he was going. You got to see Michael Rooker really playing into the character a bit more, giving him a lot more stuff to do. Oh my god, it paid off. There is one particular scene. Oh my god. On the whole, I felt like Guardians 2 was a much smaller movie. It was much more of a wholesome experience. You got to understand what this family, this Guardians of the Galaxy team, really are going through, because they do feel like a family in this movie. And I'm glad that there was no big romantic connection between Star-Lord and Gamora. They kind of hinted at it, but they didn't go too far with it, because that would have probably hampered the movie a little bit. I loved the cinematography. The first movie had this kind of like grey, like wet cement kind of look for most of the scenes, but here in Volume 2, the color work and the movements that cinematographer Henry Bram has utilized for this movie is insane. I gotta say, Volume 2 might just be the most beautiful looking Marvel movie. The soundtrack isn't better than the first one, because the first one it kind of flowed a little bit more for the movie, but there were some songs in there that are personal favorites of mine, and to hear things like Electric Light Orchestra and George Harrison, my favorite artist of all time, in this movie was that was something truly beautiful. This is a beautiful, just heartwarming, incredible experience for a movie. The emotion behind this whole thing is fantastic. I am in awe of what James Gunn has been able to pull off, what he's been able to get away with for this movie. You can really feel like this is totally his vision. He writes the script himself, he directs it all himself, and he's just gone for it, and I appreciate that. I love that. I feel like Volume 2 might just nearly be there to crack the top 5 of the best MCU movies. Again, that's my personal opinion. I really enjoyed this movie. It is flawed, sure, but it was just a much better experience for me, and I'd have to say that Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 is worth the ticket and the Blu-ray. This movie's getting a little bit of a mixed response, which I don't really understand. Maybe I'm looking at it in a different way. Maybe it's going to be like Age of Ultron was, because I love Age of Ultron, and not many people do. In fact, most people think it's meh. Some people think it's terrible. I love it, so Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, have you seen it? Please tell me what you think about it in the comments below. There are going to be videos linked down here or one over there. For more Mr. Movies, please press my little face right there. Thanks for watching.